I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for being here to the 2017 candidate debate for the North Mason area. My name is Chris Klessman. I am the chair to the Government Affairs Committee for the North Mason Chamber of Commerce. And I really hope that tonight is enlightening on a couple of different questions we have set up for each of the candidates. First, I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So would you please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening, Joel Meyer.
Green, the light's on. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to tonight's meeting. Important issues not only for school districts, but economic development with the Port District, and hopefully you will learn a lot and be able to ask a lot of questions that are burning in your mind tonight of all these candidates. So what we'd like to do is to start with how we're going to be doing the questioning, and it'll be a little bit different for Mr. Houston over here. Because Houston is here, but Ted Jackson unfortunately can't be tonight. So what we'll be doing is that we will flip a coin, which I have borrowed from Chris, and I promised to give it back at the end of the night. 1944, never mind. So we'll have the two candidates, we'll flip the coin, and we'll alternate the questions and end the discussion for each position with the candidate having 2 minutes to finalize. And then we will have kind of a group question and answer period for you. So it ought to be a lot of fun for you tonight. So we'll start out with Houston coming up. You got heads. You're going to get the first question. Excellent. Thanks for coming.
No problem.
So what we'll do with you is we'll go through each question and give you 3 minutes on each. And at the end, you'll have 2 minutes to finalize.
Okay.
The 3 questions. So,
okay, excellent.
We'll start with question number 1. What is your vision for the purpose and the future of the Port of Allen?
Well, the Port of Allen, sorry, I just want to make sure I know my starting time. First off, thank you all for coming out. So the Port of Allen is unique. Well, ports are unique in this state in that they are an elected body whose sole purpose is economic development. So that gets that part of the question out of the way. My vision for the Port of Allen is really taking what we have right now and adding really the economic development onto it. Our community, there's 3 facets in our community. There is the residential, those of us who live here and commute out of the district to work elsewhere, whether in the Yard or Tacoma or Seattle, and also those who are retired here. Then we have the tourists who come in the summer and certain holidays. And then we have industry, then we have business. That's the 3rd rung. And that's something I really want to focus on if I'm elected. What really affects all 3 of those is infrastructure. And we know the Belfair Bypass is coming in. And there's a Allen Mobility Plan, which will expand the road there. And I want to help direct the port, use the powers of the port, to direct those efforts and make sure that they help not only those of us who live here full-time or retired here, those of us who come in the summers, and those of us who work here. We have the ability through some of the zoning in the UGAs, both Allen and Belfair UGAs have business parks that they are zoned for, so the port could, through various either encouraging private development or public-private venture, create business parks of some kind. The North Belfair one works, I think, is the one that the port should look at first and foremost because it could tie into the Port of Bremerton and get some overflow off of the Port of Bremerton there. And the future of the port really is to build our community. Make it so people like me who, most of my graduating class from North Mason, they went elsewhere for jobs. Some of us have started coming back, but I think the port can do a lot to make it so you don't have to leave and go to Seattle or go far-flung places if you want a job that's not working in the shipyard. So I know the Port of Bremerton put in a bid for the new Amazon headquarters. I don't think that's going to happen, but that shows some moxie that these rural ports are, or Bremerton's not a rural port, but that these ports that aren't major metropolitan centers can do to bring businesses. So my time's up. Thank you very much.
Maybe we can get a little bit more specific on the Belfair urban growth area and the port properties here. What are what's some of the future you see for that?
Well, as far as the port properties, I know in Allen there is a plan in place to expand the dock out in Allen, put in some slips, some things like that. I don't think it'd be feasible to get a fuel dock there. I think the best thing would be to work with the Port of Grapeview and some private investors to reopen the Fair Harbor fuel dock. As far as the other port properties, I think they bring in a good amount of revenue for the port. Just need to make sure that we keep them up to a very high standard so that people who come into the community for boating, which is primarily what the port's parks facilitate, that they're able to be used and that we have the best ones. We don't want people going somewhere else because we have dirty facilities. Now, as far as Belfair goes, I think if you were here for the meeting for the mobility plan, finishing out the phase 2 on the expansion, that's something that would have to be worked through county and state. But again, the port, being the lowest level of elected government, can help push that in a certain direction that we feel works best and alleviates traffic best. Belfair is the crossroads of the lower Kitsap Peninsula. From Belfair, you go to Tacoma, you go to Shelton, you go to South Shore and the Hood Canal. It's really where everything meets, and I think the port needs to do its best in working with other agencies to make it so it's easy for people to get to businesses in Belfair, and it's easy for people to get to work through Belfair. And in using those business park zoned areas in the northern part of the Belfair UGA, people to work in the Belfair UGA. And then, of course, they're not traveling very far. Their money is staying here, and as such, property values go up, and we all do better for that. So I think that's the best answer I can come up with for that right now.
Okay, great, thank you. And I may parse this next question a little bit. We have it on the board, but I'd like to break it down a little bit in that regard. What is your opinion, first, possible port consolidation or regionalization, number one, but the second part of that would be, short of that, how could the ports work together for the betterment of the economic development in North Mason?
There's been lots of talk about merging different ports. In some instances, they can work. In some instances, they'd probably be more of a burden. I know there's in the past been talks about merging the Port of Allen, taking over at least a portion, if not all, of the Port of Grapeview. Problem there is a major difference in tax levy, and I don't think that the Port of Grapeview would, the people in the Port of Grapeview would much appreciate that. As far as regionalization goes, hold on, let me look back at this one more time. I think consolidation works if both ports, Port of Allen and Grapeview, the other ports that are around us, if it's mutually beneficial. If they have facilities that need some work and we know that we can help them with that, then I think that might be a good idea. But geographically, some of these don't work. As far as regionalization goes, that really bumps up the level of representation. You know, you're getting, if you have, say, regional Kitsap Peninsula port, then you have small ports, you have rural ports like the Port of Allen merging with the Port of Bremerton, which has, associates with the Naval Yard, has a national airport at it, or airfield at it, has one of the largest small boat producers to the world's navies and police forces, Safe Boat, at it. And that's not necessarily something that we have the experience with, not that we will not gain the experience with it, but then we have the people in Bremerton voting or having say on things in the Port of Allen. And it's 20 minutes down the road, but it's an entirely different world. They have city streets, we don't. So I think as far as regionalization goes, that's not necessarily something that I would support. Some consolidation through partial annexation might be an option, but it's one that would have to be very carefully studied to ensure that it would work for both ports. I don't agree with land grabbing for the sake of land grabbing. So I believe that answers the question.
Realizing, of course, things like that are very, very ticklish questions to answer, and they're very difficult to work through. And there are benefits and, of course, some negatives on that. So let's wrap this up. You now have 2 minutes to be able to wrap up your thoughts on why you're running, your vision, and why people should vote for you.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, why I'm running, I get asked that a lot, probably because most people who run for these positions are fairly more senior to me. I think because of the special nature that is ports, it's an exciting place for someone like me to hopefully be in office there. But I came home. I went away, I worked various jobs, I was a salesman, and then I came home. And I'm a realtor here, and I want to help the community through being a realtor, help people get homes, have their dreams. And I want to be a member of the Port Commission because I just want to see the place where I grew up, where I went to elementary and middle and high school. I want to see it do better than what it's been. I mean, I'm North Mason class of 6. I spent my whole life here. I was a Cub Scout and a Weeblo here. I played sports for Hawkins and North Mason. I still try and catch a football game, but all the North Mason ones seem to be on drill weekend, so I'm having to be down in Olympia in uniform. But I just want to have the place where we live, where I grew up, be better. Not that it's not already good, but be better, and be better for everyone. It would mean a lot to be your port commissioner for me, and I'd always be there. You could probably 3 days a week find me in one of the various restaurants down in Allen, and go ahead and say, hey, what's going on? I have this thought about this in the community. I'm here to listen. That would be my job, is to listen to you. So my time is up. Thank you very much for your consideration, and vote for Houston.
Houston, Hamilton, and as I mentioned before, Ted could not be with us tonight, but I'm sure that he'll be at other opportunities for you to see him later on. Thank you very much. Okay.
Tails.
It's heads. So we'll be able to start with you, Leanna.
Shouldn't I choose? No, I'm kidding.
Very good. Thank you for being here. This is a very broad question, but I'm sure that both of you had the opportunity to think about this. What are the most important issues you feel are facing the North Mason School District?
Big question. That was one to think about. So I guess first, it depends on who you are. One of the biggest things that we're dealing with is the House Bill 2242, the decisions with that and what we can do to implement that into our system and how we're going to deal with that. But I think if you're a community member and outside of that, one of our biggest things that have been on the chopping block, I guess, it would be our communication. I think that faces, I think after looking into it, because I was like, God, I really feel like we're the only people that are dealing with this, you know? And I'm like, God, we can't be the only ones. So I'm looking into it, and most school districts have that problem. So when there's an emergency that comes up, you can't know fast enough if your child's okay. So I think that's one of the scariest things, and it really gets people loud and scared, and they get up and they want to know why we're not communicating so well. Some of our lower instant gratification things with communication is maybe we can communicate one of the stadium, the brand new stadium. I heard that wasn't communicated well. So I think just us getting out there and working with that to fix that is one of the other things that we're important things we're dealing with.
So Mike, how do you respond to that question? Or how do you respond to that question or even answer that question?
Well, I agree that the House Bill 2242 is a huge concern for everybody in North Mason School District because it has to do with their budget. Right now, the school district is doing okay, but they're not doing extremely well. And that the House bill that was signed into law recently cuts our ability for levy lids by 4%, which in my opinion is the wrong direction that the state should have gone. You know, they should have at least left it at the 28% prior, or even raised it 1 or 2% to allow the communities to vote for a higher lid to help with the infrastructure for the school district. Again, along with that, what Leona was talking about was communication. I agree, communication is not to par with what I feel should be. When they had the big lockdown at the end of the last school year, parents were not being communicated to by what was happening. My wife, who was sitting out at the Teller Center waiting for my daughter to arrive on a school bus, was finding out information from news stations through Facebook, not from the school district, not from the sheriff's office, not from the fire department. My wife went to the parent debriefing, I think is what they called it, and they were basically told that they were supposed to follow on Twitter. Well, I don't Twitter because our POTUS has ruined that for everybody, but at no point was that ever communicated to anybody that you had to follow the sheriff's office on Twitter to get the information. So communication is huge, and part of communication is also being transparent about everything. If you don't tell your community what's happening, it's going to upset them. Trying to whitewash stuff, trying to cover stuff up is not okay, and that's not what I'm about. And so.
Okay, so thank you. You're seeing I'm punching the button here. So you both kind of agree on two really big issues. Are there some other issues you'd want to bring up in your discussion about issues that you want to deal with once you're elected to the school board? We'd start with you, Leanna. Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Well, being on the school board, the biggest one I really want to deal with, number one is our communication, because I have a child, and if something happened at the school next to my right next to my house and I couldn't get there, I would want to know, and I know that our system, our automated system, is CRAP, really. So, I mean, I want to say that as I'm not putting us down, but it's not a good system. Where I'm getting phone calls at night myself when something happened at the beginning of the day or even the next day. So, and I don't think the district is to blame for that, but I think maybe the company that's doing that could beef that up a little bit. Another thing that we deal with in schools is understanding bullying. Bullying sometimes is under and overrated. So I don't want to say underrated, I guess, but people don't understand what is bullying. And if your kid got pushed down once, you know, that maybe it's not, you know, I can go into details with that, but I think understanding that and really coming at it a different way instead of just you're in trouble, now you guys are, you know, you both have to deal with this. I think also that because the district is focusing more on mental health, I think that will help with that. But that's couple of the things that I'm focusing on more this year. And getting to know this HB 2242, and I don't know everything. I don't know how it's going to pan out, and how it looks like a good system. It looks like we fully funded education, but did we really do the right thing there? So I want to see. I'm interested to see how this is working out for us.
Thank you. And Mike, kind of the same idea. We had talked about those two issues. Are there other issues that you see that are important as a leader for the school district?
I think one of the important issues that I'm like to face and take on is just finishing our capital projects that were approved, finishing the renovation of the stadium, remodeling the Feller Center, and making sure we're getting accurate numbers and realistic numbers. The school board had $100,000 set aside for renovation of the Feller Center for their early learning, and when they got the figures back, it was much more than that. I work in the construction industry. I see when the inflation of product and contractors are starting to rise. Right now we're in a boom with construction, so contractors are able to charge more per foot for renovations or new building. The price of PVC is skyrocketing due to the hurricanes. I see all this stuff happening real time, so I can help guide the school in making sure that we're getting realistic and accurate numbers to finish off these capital improvement projects that the people of North Mason have voted for.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on to our next question. And fortunately, I've had the opportunity to participate in some of the science, technology, and engineering and math initiatives at the North Mason School District in the middle school through my work at the PUD, where we're always looking for technology-minded kids. So we'll start with you, Mike, and the question would be, how do you envision elementary school technology education to prepare students for science, technology, engineering, and math programs in middle and high school?
Well, that's a tough question. Getting them access to computers to start with, learning how to navigate safely through the internet, teaching them how to maybe even start writing code. My daughter, she's in middle school, and she's taking a computer class there, and she's doing all kinds of designs on the screen using writing code and stuff, and just letting the kids learn that stuff at an earlier age so they can start building on it through middle school, high school, and into college is the best thing that you can do. The earlier the better with teaching kids.
What we've been doing with the technology in school, we also, if kids, they are learning earlier than we used to, and sitting and playing the Oregon Trail or whatever, and we never paid attention to anything else. We're playing these little green and black screens, but we actually send home pads, iPads with the kids in certain situations and for certain classes, and they always have access to that. I would, some of the things I was reading about that is not just teaching the children, because the children can't be successful with the technology if we don't teach our teachers how to use the technology. A lot of, I don't want to say old people, and I'm getting there, but I don't even understand half that. My kid just set up his Xbox One and he's 7 years old, you know, and he did it by himself. I'm like, oh my, yeah, yeah. Well, and he bought it himself, you know, so these things are, they're becoming more user-friendly, but being older, we're kind of in a position of, we were from the Oregon Trail, well, I'm from the Oregon Trail days, I guess, and those old floppy disks, and moving into, I am pretty savvy with technology, but I know a lot of parents that aren't. So first teaching the teachers, but we also need to focus not just on our children, but how our parents are having trouble helping their children. Core math, you know, core those kind of things. I don't even understand how my kid just made this decision, you know, and I don't even get it. So I think not just educating our children, but educating the teachers first, and then us, and letting those teachers talk to us about that and teach us a little bit.
I'm going to expand on it a little bit because I can see where having a strong STEM is the acronym for it, science, technology, engineering, and math. Having a strong schooling on that can help a student not just look at college, but look at other opportunities in the field. Do you think it's important for the students to be able to learn that there are other opportunities to use these skills? And we'll start with you, Mike, when they take them and when they graduate?
Absolutely. There's all kinds of opportunities for technology and science and mathematics, anywhere from engineering to banking. I could be here all night listing stuff. Just being able to show the kids the opportunities that are out there by learning the stuff, and then nurturing them when they do find something that they're enjoying. That's the key thing to help them along, is just to nurture them when they find that niche that helps them click.
And the same question for you, Leanna, having that basis for whatever they want to go to.
Yeah, like he was saying, no, not like there's a book that we had to read this summer, and I'm going to admit it in front of everybody that I didn't read it, but I read about it, and I read some other stuff. It's called Rise of the Robots, and technology taking over all of our jobs. Well, we're going to have people to run the technology, to run the computers. You know, McDonald's, I guess, close. They just went to an automated thing. You know, so even our the jobs that were just fast food are going to be in that way. But we also have to not teach our children to be robots. You know, not just to be the test takers, and not just to think, oh, you got to think technology. There's other things, ways to expand outside of that, but I think by us implementing that science earlier on, and the technology is coming in kindergarten. They're learning typing early. I think where we fell as children we weren't introduced to that till late, and then this technology boom came, and a lot of us, I'm not going to even come with a percentage, a lot of us were like, man, none of us had jobs. You know, all this technology took over, and 100,000 people don't know how to use it. So I think because we implemented it early now, that it's helping with that.
Okay, thank you. So you brought it up on the aside, but we'll be starting with you with this question, Leanna. The cost for repurposing the Theller Center. It's exceeded expectations, so what would your vision be going forward on what's next for the Theller Center and the functions that would be taking place there?
Well, I have a history with the Theller Center. So my grandparents, my grandfather was an old-time fiddler, and he played the accordion, and while my grandma sang and danced. So I have a tie with it, and I was not there to surplus. I wasn't one of the people that voted to surplus it in the beginning. So I think that the decision to make it, there's a lot of different things we could have done, and being on the education side, what are we going to do with a recreation building? We're putting money for education into recreation. So what we did and decided by making it into a preschool early learning place, I think is great. I think there's a lot of things to look at, especially with our numbers coming back higher. What are the things that we really need right away? Not, for instance, putting, I know we can run wires in outside, you know, or wireless, and they were talking about putting everything in behind the walls and making things more streamlined, but right away, maybe that's not something we need right away, and we could have cut that down. So I guess basically looking at our needs first of moving that forward, and building that to support the new decision, to support these young kids in this area that aren't getting preschool education in this area due to the fact that most of our preschools are full by the time everybody wants to get their children in there. My kid was lucky enough to get in with the Christ Lutheran Child Care, and they are amazing. So I'm also looking forward, instead of working against any of the, like the school district working against any other of the daycares or preschools or whatever, everybody coming and working together on that, and what can we do as a school to support the other preschools and their instructors or teachers, so that all of these kids, when they get to the school, have the same opportunity before. So when they get there, they're all ready for the same thing.
So you kind of alluded to it. Maybe you could expand a little bit on what you think should be done with that situation.
Well, definitely, you know, everybody likes to have all the bells and whistles on a new project, brand new building. It's not feasible, unfortunately, at this time. Just, you know, the ship has sailed for us to lock in pricing for contractors per foot, for utilities, for all the stuff that goes into remodeling. So making the necessary cuts, you know, to fit it back into our budget, and just having the minimal stuff needed to get it open for these kids to have their early learning.
And you'll have now the last chance to fill in maybe a few more thoughts you might have on the Zeller Center, both of you, but starting with you, Leanna.
Well, I would like, I know that last time we talked, we were deciding what the other half will do, what we'll do with the other half, the wetland part, and how that can still be used with the district. But I'm really excited the way that it's going. I think that we were really smart to turn that into an educational venue. I think that we're, as a district, working all together to use tax dollars the right way, and to not never trying to take more than we need, but still giving our kids a really cool, really great education, but not making them feel like they get less because we're in a poverty area. So I think that Zeller Center being one of the hot topics in the community, I hope that people see that as a good decision. I think that just watch and see how it goes, and support it. Give your, hey, we want to see how this goes, and when we support you, I would love to see the community with their hearts and their hands in that, and being more involved, I guess. And then, yeah, kind of just going on from here.
Thank you. And you get to have the final word on this issue.
She pretty much summed up everything. You know, I would say, just having the community involvement, letting us know what you would like to see, in the Early Learning Center, and, just making sure that we're not going over budget and fitting the stuff in that we absolutely have to have in there, and, putting off to the side, the nice fun stuff that, we don't have to have now, but we can definitely bring in at a later date.
Cool. So now is the point where you get to say what you want to say instead of what we're trying to get you to say. And so, since we flipped the coin at the beginning, Leanna, you have the first opportunity to make a 2-minute statement as to why you'd like people to vote for you.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the hardest things for me to do is talk about myself and talk myself up. So this is the one night that we get to, or the one time of year in election time when somebody's running against you, that you get to talk about yourself. And I don't think I'm better than Mike, but I think that I have a really good balance. I have a good way of looking at things, and I can see things balanced in front of me. I don't have to go, I'm really compelled here. I can kind of just look at it, and my heart is in the safety of our children. It is in our budgets and in our taxes, but I always vote yes for taxes for schools. I think that's just, if we don't send that to educate, send the, hey, we're supporting your education, then, what am I paying taxes for? So I have a really good heart for this place. I've grown up here, born in Grapeview, in and out of here. And I've always wanted to come back and change what it looked like before, when we were children. And people always saying, oh no, North Mason. And I think the new high school was a really huge step in making us look really good. And our teachers are amazing, and I just love supporting them. And I guess that's really, I don't know what else to say about me, but I think that I've been doing a pretty good job on the board 2 years in, and I want to be able to stand on the stage with my son and shake his hand in high school. So that's it.
Great, thank you. And Mike, you have the final word on this.
So I was elected prior to Leanne. I took a job out of state, and so I had to vacate my position. Leanne took over for me at some point after I had left. I had served for 7 months on the school board, and now that I'm back, I really want to fulfill my promise to my kids and to your kids to make sure they get the best education possible through the public system. And for me, there's no better way for me to ensure that than to serve on the school board. Make sure kids are our future, and they're the ones that are going to be working and paying for us and our homes and our insurance, and I want to make sure that our kids have the best chance possible of having the best lives that they could.
Great. Well, thank you for, there we go again. Thank you to Leanna and Mike for their willingness to run for the office and to serve, and thank you for being here tonight. This is for position 2 on the North Mason School Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As we're setting up the placards for the next candidates, I would be remiss if I did not point out Diedrich Allen, who is not only live streaming tonight's event, but also will have available almost immediately after the event, if you want to watch it again, the event on Mason Web TV. And so his address there is masonwebtv.com, and it is powered by Hood Canal Communications. So thank you, Diedrich, for your work tonight. And who wouldn't want to mix Starbucks coffee with politics? Caffeinated politics. So there's a program that I believe it's on the back table, but I wanted to point it out. Ballots and Baristas, a nonpartisan, well-informed community conversation about Mason County ballot measures. So you'll be able to register to vote, talk politics, not candidates, that's nice, and be informed about measures on the November 7th ballot. That will be Saturday from 10 to 2, October 21st at Starbucks, just out here, and it's sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Mason County. So lots of fun times, and I love that coffee right there with the cream on top of it. I would go for 2/3 cream and the rest of it coffee. Awesome stuff there. So let us now bring up Timothy Giroux and Casey Breeze. They're running for position 5 for the Grapeview School Board. So just like the previous candidates, we'll be flipping the coin, which I put in my other pocket again. I'm just terrible at flipping coins. You can flip coins really well. No one's going to fess, oh, great. Okay. Heads. Okay, I'm practicing on this one right here. Casey, I'm going to have you call it in the air, Casey, okay?
Okay.
Here we go.
Heads.
And it is heads. You'll be able to go first. So we have 3 questions, and we'll be going back and forth on them with you. So the first question will sound familiar, but I think it is an important question to ask. And that is, what is your vision for what are the most important issues facing the Grapeview School District? And you have 3 minutes to answer that question, Casey.
All right. So, I think the most important issues facing the Grapeview School District would be related to a few decisions we've had recently. So, would be related to funding, taxes and funding. So, through the McCleary decision, there's been certain attacks on the ability to support high-quality education in rural areas. I have nothing but respect for educators, as my wife is one. And the deal is that there's definitely been a lack of interaction in between the legislators and the legislative liaison within the Grapeview School District, and I fear that as having a son who's 4 years old who will be going there in the future, that this will become an issue. We have a beautiful school. We have some of the best teachers around. We have basically some of the best staff around, and no offense to any other, some of the best staff around. And we need to be able to keep them. We need to be able to treat them well. We need to, as a rural school district, we need to be able to fight against being absorbed. Education has been a huge issue for myself and my family, along with healthcare. I grew up in an area where we, out on the peninsula out there, where if every now and then the power would go out during the winter, and it'd be cold. It's very hard to learn why you're cold. Now we have a beautiful new school there, upgraded school. We have wonderful staff, wonderful teachers. One of them was sitting right next to me, was one of those teachers. I believe that getting through this next little bit of time here without losing that or being absorbed by a larger district is greatly important. And be able to support our teachers, help them, make sure that they are paid their due amount, paid well, treated well. I believe there are a place for no politics in education.
Great.
And so.
Okay, thank you. And Timothy, pretty much the same question, or if you have some response to anything that Casey said in his statement, the most important issues facing Grapeview right now.
Okay, well, let me start with a little bit of the past, but I'll be quick because I don't have much time. 2 or 3 years ago, when I left, I would have said facilities was a major issue in technology. Thanks to the community, that has been addressed. The school is beautiful. Technology is connected to the school now, and it's wonderful. If you have not been there, you need to go, and it's because of the votes and it's a great place. One of the things at that time too in the past that we were struggling with not enough students, so that we were in danger of maybe not being a school district, and that's been solved also right now because of the actions of the board and the actions of the teachers have done a fabulous job. So now out-of-district people are wanting to come into the district, which helps support the school district. Okay, let's go on. The first thing, a major issue, I think, is retaining our teachers. When a teacher leaves, we have fabulous teachers. Our kids deserve to have the best teachers in Washington. And the only way that we can do that is being able to replace them. And so it brings up the next issue is the funding that the state model that just came up makes it look like smaller districts are going to have a harder time competing with the larger districts in getting those qualified teachers, the best teachers in Washington. Smaller districts we're tiny. We're a wonderful little jewel in the forest, and the larger districts have a lot of access to a lot more than we do. The funding also makes it look like we're going to have a struggle as well. Next thing is extracurricular activities to keep the kids at the school. We need to continue to have the things that we used to have. We used to have pottery and stained glass and all of those things. Larger school districts have a lot of resources in order to keep those kids there, to have passion. And that's what we need to have. We need to keep those things. We need to be able to, it's going to be a struggle to find funding and access to do that. The last one I'd say is I'm going to keep going back to the tiny school district. We need to not be a small district. We need to be thinking globally. We need to be thinking in the future. Our kids need to be, technology is going to take over jobs. Our kids need to be self-starters. They need to be confident in themselves, and they need to be passionate about something. Extracurricular activities will help that, and global thinking as a school district we need to do.
I want to hit on something both of you talked about, is this small school district dilemma, and there are a number of small school districts in Mason County. And Casey, how do you deal with a small school district and not only keeping the teachers, but keeping the parents and the kids involved?
Well, again, it's through negotiations. You keep things from becoming terribly top-heavy. Tim had on a great point there. You make it an attractive place to come for kids that may otherwise not have, their families may otherwise not have thought of having them come there. You essentially fight as hard as possible to maintain the highest budget you can for your little school. Otherwise, again, that issue of absorption becomes a topic, and the issue of losing teachers, it's a horrible one, because here we have these great teachers. They're wonderful. They've been trained. They've put in their time, and I have not met one that aren't of the highest quality. And to lose them after putting in so much time and resources into them, to a higher paycheck is just a desperate blow to us. And so, again, it's through negotiation, it's through understanding and interacting with the legislators and understanding what is going to happen and how to navigate your way through that. That is part of this position number 5, as a legislative liaison. So, there we go.
And Timothy, kind of the same question you brought up, the small school district dilemma, and what are some of the things that you could see helping that out?
The dilemma of having fewer students and then having to not be a district, is that the question?
Either that or how you deal with a small district and having the teachers and the staff.
Staff. Having a quality school, it would be great to be a model school so that you have you have technology pieces that not other schools don't have. Having the opportunities for the kids, basically. I've watched parents take their kids out of the school because there are other schools that have extracurricular activities. By having those extracurricular activities in there, you're providing these kids with extra things they can look at to create passion. And the passion in students is real important. And if those kids have the passion, they want to be there, the parents will want to be there. And that right now, it's a great time right now. You have a new school, and you have adults and parents sending their kids to our school because of what's happening there. So it's a good place, and that's the kind of stuff you need to do.
So we're going to try to alternate this here, so we'll start with you first, Timothy. The question that on the board, and I saw that you guys had a chance to kind of ponder that. The question basically surrounds the high school issue. So what's your opinion about forming a new high school with neighboring school districts such as Hood, Canal, and Pioneer that we've been hearing about and reading about?
They came to talk to us about their passion, about what they're going to do. And if they're able to do their passion, to actually make a model high school, I think it would be exciting. I think it would be, I really don't know too much about it, but maybe to have the smaller districts going for another high school, I'm torn. It could pull some resources from the high school that's here, or if they go their way that they wanted to do, which is kind of change the model and be kind of a high-end high school, pulling different kids for specific, I think it was technology piece. I don't know too much about it. It might work, and I think I would support it if that was. I need to know more about what's going to happen in each piece.
Okay, and Casey, same question for you. What's your opinion on something like that? That's a consolidation of smaller school districts to form one high school.
Well, I think that first we need to better align ourselves with the existing high school that we have, North Mason. We are considered a feeder program with North Mason High School. VIA ideas kind of along the lines of Running Start. They're able to graduate with a degree, start with a head start in this world where a four-year degree has not meant a whole lot recently. You have to get your graduate degree to be able to compete at all. We need to be able to compete. That question is a question that comes on further down the line, to be honest, in my opinion. That question comes on further down the line. I think it's too early to consider such a thing. I think the idea that we're going to create some magnificent consolidation while we already have issues in between, again, being a feeder program and connecting the two, it's something to be considered in the future, but at this time, I don't think I would support it.
And I felt your eyes on me, Diedrich, wherever you're at. I keep missing the button on this. And finishing this off, do you have any more thoughts, Timothy, about the high school non-high costs and things like that, that apparently is the reason that this is being looked at by the various other school districts?
I kind of agree. We are in Belfair. I mean, we are a feeder school for here, unless we know that that we could do better there. I think I would stay. Boy, I need more information about that. But that's exciting. If they can do a new model there, that's exciting. But I am afraid that we're pulling away from a solid place that we have, and that maybe we need to work with the high school that we have here. So I guess I'm on the fence with that.
Okay, and Casey, you get to finish up this question with your final thoughts on that whole issue.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, I guess I finished there with, at this time I couldn't support it. I couldn't see it being economically viable. We are being taxed to the limit already. Building another school, going on with, we're talking large amounts of money. We're talking over $3 million to upgrade that little beautiful school that we have right now. And that money could be much better served keeping the teachers that we have, keeping the high quality staff that we have, keeping the extracurricular programs, or growing the extracurricular programs that we have. We have a wonderful performing arts program, and we've had a lot of folks locally here who, like myself, with their children going to the school, have given time to give money and donate money, and they're always recognized and they're always treated well. And we have a wonderful board, but the thing is that that is kind of, in my opinion, a pie in the sky idea right now. It may be 6 years to a decade down the line. It could be an idea, but right now we need to worry about ours, protecting it. We need to worry about not paying an arm and a leg in taxes when we can't cover what we have right now, and being infected by such things as the McCleary decision. Again, I would not be able to support it.
Great.
That is my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is like the other side of the coin. Both of you talked about somewhat about the smaller district losing students and the chance of becoming incorporated into a larger district or another district. So the question would be, what would you see as advantages and disadvantages to the regionalization of school districts in Mason County? And we'd start with you, Tim.
What do you mean by regionalized?
Well, if the school district became a part of another district, or is there value in staying the Grapeview School District?
Well, at this point, I would say we are good. I mean, we have a solid school. We have it's really a nice, beautiful place. It's a solid place. We don't have any issues. Well, we have issues of getting teachers sometimes. We don't have an issue right now of students not coming, a number of students. I think we're pretty solid. I would feel comfortable saying that I would not, if it were to come up, I would probably suggest that we do not incorporate or go regionalize. We would lose this. One of the things that makes the school a wonderful place is because it's small, and everybody knows everybody. All the kids know each other. All the teachers know each other. And the work that happens there is collaborative. It's connected. Parents know about it. And I would be afraid that would be lost if we would lose that little spark of the little neighborhood. So I would suggest that not happen.
Okay. And Casey, pretty much the same question.
Okay, so I would have to go a little bit further with the idea of losing our personality. As I've become a father, he's 4 years old. He's our only son. We cannot have any more. I've gained a greater perspective on the world, and not just associated with the minutia of what I experienced growing up a few excuse me, it's kind of almost an emotional thing for me here. Growing up a few districts over there, where the deal is that we have a small community. People take care of each other. They look out for each other. They know that their actions affect each other. They know that if someone were to ask for help, that it would most likely be received. The regeneralization or generalization, or I do not see an advantage again to that point of where we would again be losing very special programs that we have, and it would it would tear at the fabric of our community that so many people before myself, I'm 35 years old here, so many people before myself have fought so very hard to keep. They fought so very hard to create an environment where the teachers get along, that people feel good about having their kids go there. We do not have a problem with having too small of classrooms. We have kids who want to come to this school from outside of the district because it's such a darn good school. Again, I kind of look at that as politics getting in the way of education, and politics should play really no place in education, and generally when they do, it hurts the ability for people to hold on to their identity, to hold on to what makes them unique, and hold on to what works. And so I guess the very last thing I could say about that would be that there have been in the past these mandates, these unfinished mandates pushed off on the schools. So schools being told what to do with their money, with their time, and I could not see a world where if we went down that rabbit hole where every single thing would be controlled, and the power of our board and the people that know what they're doing, would not lose that say, and that is terribly important.
And
Thank you.
just some final thoughts on that, Timothy, and then we'll wrap this up and let you tell us why we should vote for you. So let's start with you to just wrap up this regionalization discussion.
Oh, the last discussion. No, I would, right now, I would stay, I would not incorporate.
Both of you have been very eloquent in your discussion about that, yes. It's really, do you have any other further thoughts, Casey?
Beyond the fact that I would go, I guess, a step beyond that and say I would fight against reallocation at all costs. What ours right now is ours, and there's no advantage beyond what we have right now. We have built something beautiful, and there's no reason to beyond. There is no reason to take that step down that rabbit hole. Like I said, the one issue that could be addressed would be communicating and getting our children a little bit better, a little bit more ready for integration within the North Mason School District, because that's where we're sending, and without losing, again, our identity.
Sure. Great, thank you.
Can I change protocol?
You may.
I do have something to say.
You do have that, very good,
I wrote
because
it down,
you
I
had a
just
lot of
didn't do
time
it.
left, so I think that we'll give you the chance.
Okay, so when when I first came to Grapeview, I came from a large district, huge district. It was one of the biggest districts in the state of Washington. I don't know if it is now. I liked working there. I could do my job and then I could go home. And I didn't have to do too much other than extra work. Come to Grapeview, you have to do everything. You have to do, not everything. You can't do the management, but there are more things that you do. You have to do more. But that was the difference. That was a job. This was a passion. I mean, this is a beautiful little place. And so all these kids, and you just kind of do it all, but you get burned. So we have to, anyway, let's stay with that. So that's why it's good to be small, and it's good to know, what you're doing.
So when on the coin flip, this sets you up as being the first to give your final statement. So you have 2 minutes, actually 2 minutes in the closing statement. Why people should vote for you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a huge believer in public education. It really is I think it's the backbone of our democracy. It really is an equalizer. And why I fit well in this position is because on our board, you want multiple voices. On our board, we have business people. Thank goodness, because I don't do the number thing. They are doing the numbers. They watch the numbers. We have kind of an educational director who was an education administrator. And I come from I love the word minutia. I looked it up. I couldn't even find the spelling. I was going to use it here. I can't believe Casey used it. Minutia. I don't even know what does that mean. No. I come from the work with the kids. I am a teacher. I come from there. That's my perspective. I come from the contact. So we have business watching the school, making sure that's working. We have an administrator that kind of knows about all the administration, and I feel that contact. So I think it's a good voice to have it on school board. I'm a good collaborator. I listen well. I definitely have opinions about probably about everything. Yet, I'm always interested in if I'm wrong. I'm always interested in if I'm wrong.
Great, thank you.
All right, so I agree with Tim on the fact that every person in the board, they carry with them a role. And we have businessmen. We have educational directors. We have folks, again, that can work pretty well together. Now, the one thing I do believe that we're lacking, and the one thing that is, we're not lacking. It's not the right word, because I have the utmost respect for Mr. Giroux and his number of years of teaching, but is in the position of legislative liaison. We need somebody who can interact with the current legislators. If you look back there on my little handout there, I have the endorsement of every single, and I received a few more today that are not on there, but every single legislator within the 35th legislative district. And that is because I understand how to interact with them. I understand how to communicate our issues with them. I also understand how to retain the information that are coming from them and bring it back to the board. It is not my job to make those decisions for the board. We have a wonderful chair of the board, and we have a solid group there. If elected in that position as a legislative liaison, I believe I would be able to provide a tremendous benefit in that way, a tremendous benefit to be able to protect our sanctity as a little school. And there was one correction there. I have not received Terry Jeffries' endorsement yet.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you very much. So now we go into the questions from the audience. Do we have some, Chris, that we have available, or we could? Okay, so we're going to bring up all the folks that are with us.
Yep.
It's the murderer's row here.
We'll take care of it.
How do you want us to deal with the mics on this one, Diedrich? Oh, wow.
Hello. Okay. We are running just a little bit long, but we're going to keep this to about 10 minutes total if we can. So I think that there's probably 5 or 6 questions here in the audience. And please remember when you're asking a question to ask it to a race so that both candidates have the opportunity to ask or to answer that type of a question. So the question needs to be posed in that fashion. So Rob Drexler will be walking around with the microphone for your question. Please be respectful of time.
Test.
Hi. I'll move over here.
Are we there? Okay, I'd like to make, so I was a former Grapeview School Board member for 12 years, and I'd like to make one correction. It does appear that there's a misunderstanding about the liaison position for the legislature. It's not assigned to a position. It's voted in over years, so it's not assigned to a position. The second is my actual question, and both of you, it's going to be a little bit of an obstacle to answer for Tim, but there's a number of times where we had a board member that had a staff member that was were teachers, and so as we go forward here, and with both of you recognize that this 2242 law is going to have a significant impact, but it's difficult or impossible for a board member that has a staff member to get too involved with that, and so I want to hear how both of you would deal with that. Thank you.
Did you understand the question? So,
As a spouse, excuse me, as a spouse.
So is that directed at me then?
It's both of you, because if there's a board member that has a spouse that's in the teaching staff, how would you deal with that?
there you go. There's the question right there. So since you had the closing argument, statement, I'll start with you, Tim, and then you can hand it over to Casey.
Okay, so how I'm going to address it is being on the board with a board member, another board member that has a wife. How would I deal with that? I'm not sure, without a specific circumstance, I'm not sure I can address it other than, yeah, I'm not sure I could.
If one of your fellow board members had an employee that was on the staff, how would you interact with that board member to make sure that what's that? The spouse, yeah, I keep screwing that up, sorry.
I just want to make sure.
If you had a fellow board member that had a spouse on staff, how would you address that and keep it so it was transparent and that board member was acting in accordance with the law?
I'm not really sure how I would address it, other than everything should be up above board, so that everybody knows, who's making decisions and where those decisions are coming from. I guess I just don't. Unless I have that specific circumstance, I can't answer that question. Maybe after.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to answer that question. I think it's a darn good question. I would refer to the bylaws. I've pored over the bylaws, absolutely pored over the bylaws, and so exactly how you would address it according to the bylaws, it's already taken care of. Would be that I have specifically nothing to do with any negotiation point that had to do specifically with my wife's contract. And that is already written into the bylaws. It's in there. It's set in stone in a way. And I would actively recuse myself from that situation if it would be brought up in any way. That's not something that, again, education is important to us, right? That is not something that I would even attempt to abuse. And beyond that, the bylaws would not allow me. And so my wife has an extreme passion for her job. I would walk away from the board at the drop of the hat if there was any conflict whatsoever with that situation. But again, the bylaws, they actually spell out the specific way of handling that. So that was the only way I felt comfortable running for this position.
Thank you. Who's wrestling for asking a $5, please.
That's my job. This is to the school board, both school board candidates. Are our student codes of conduct antiquated? Both schools, they feed into. Recently, one of our North Mason football players took a knee at a home football game during the national anthem. This is a national issue, which has now become hometown issue. If teachers are not allowed to protest peacefully while on the job representing the school district, how do those rules apply to students when they are in the situation of representing our schools? How are the school boards going to address this type of behavior? I can't say that I don't agree with why the boy did it, First Amendment rights. I have a daughter in the Navy who, for 23 years, has fought to protect the rights of anyone. So it's a little tough when a young man who we are teaching American values to says that when you kneel on the field at any other time, it's for a hurt or a broken player. And he believes that kneeling for the flag was the correct thing to do because he believes the country is broken. How are our school boards going to deal with this when we have other students that want to peacefully protest, but in such a diverse country, a lot of people have issues with it?
So while you're cogitating on that, there's another word for you, cogitate. Thinking about it, we'll do 1 minute per board member because of our time constraints that we're on right now. So start down here. And
I have it, but do you want to go first? Okay.
So I agree, it's the child's First Amendment right to, freedom of speech, to peacefully protest. I don't agree with taking a knee during the national anthem. I did not serve because of medical reasons. Wasn't allowed to. I've got a lot of friends, family that did serve. Friends that have been hurt serving. Family that have died serving. and they have, they were hurt and have died for that right. I also have the right not to cheer for that particular individual while he's playing, just like I do with the Seahawks. I quit watching them when they were sitting in the locker room for the national anthem. That's my First Amendment right also. Yeah, it's, let the kids do what they feel is right, in their hearts. It's nurturing their beliefs and, not forcing them to conform to anything.
Okay, Leanna.
So in our rules as the connection or the disconnection that we have with students and the teacher is held to not being able to religious views, political views, those kind of things. But children, or I should say students, because they're not all kids, I guess. But kids are, and they're urged to have their opinion. And that's what we're teaching them, is to have their opinion and be able to go out there and do that. I personally was taught, Grapeview School District, stood for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I take that seriously to me, but I don't judge anybody for not doing that. But in the law, the rules, the kids do that. Support that because it is their opinion and their First Amendment right. So.
I'm all about First Amendment rights, and so whether we like it or not, depending on you're going to have right now we're quite divided politically. So, but the protection of First Amendment rights, for me, stands first. So, I would have to stand with the First Amendment rights over any other push or from the outside or from any other place for it to be made a political issue.
I would agree. I think in this instance it would be a good opportunity. It'd be good educational, a good point where we could teach. The whole idea of education is that we're trying to be real, trying to be, we're trying to make sure that the world is that the students understand the world. And that's a real world situation, and I think that they would have a right to do that, and therefore I would support it with some information and education.
Thank you. And we have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Pauline Martin. Both of my girls have graduated from Grapeview School, the old Grapeview School and the new one. So I have a question for you two. And so we brought out the fact that you would have to recuse yourself if there was something that pertained directly to your wife, Casey. But Tim, you were at Grapeview for a long time. You're friends with a lot of the teachers there, right? A lot of the staff there, they all know you. So how would you vote when it came to negotiating for those teachers who are your very good friends? How would you be able to do that? Could you separate the fact that you're good friends?
And so we have to set this up so both of you answer the
And
question.
Casey, if
or
you had
in a
any
similar
good
way.
friends at Grapeview, which I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
At least one you're married to.
Well,
So,
and I have multiple very good friends. So
right.
yeah.
So how would you handle that? Thank you.
Okay, it is an issue. I've been out of there for 3 years, and I do know all the teachers. And I do come from, them, basically. And I had to think real hard about that situation coming onto the board when I was there, when I first got on there. How would I do that? I would definitely be tending to be with going with the teachers, but I would be on the board. I would probably recuse myself from this situation at that point.
Okay. Well, so I'm not in the exact position here as Tim. I do have quite a few friends there at the Grapeview School there. And as far as close enough friends to where we would be in any backroom meetings or creating any boards or boards of support or anything like that, or trying to undermine school policy or the board of directors' abilities to to negotiate. I would. It goes against my moral fiber to take any part of that, you know, I believe that now, Tim, did you just say that you would tend to side with the teachers?
I would pull myself out of it. I would have a tendency to go there because that's where I was.
Okay.
But I would, you know, I would be not part of that. I would try to pull myself out of the decision. That's the only thing I could do. I have to admit. In fact, negotiations just happened, and thank goodness, because I had some issues with the decision, but I wasn't there when it was made, so I would just bow out, basically, if I could do that.
Thank you. And in the interests of time, we'll have to close it at that, but I know there was a question back here, and we'll give you one indulgence.
Chris.
And who is that for?
Hi, my name is Lori Wood. And I just kind of wanted to do an overview because I live in Allen, and I wanted to say that I don't want any merging boards, please. I really liked what you had to say. Everybody, thank you for your service. I was very startled that Casey Breeze was running for office, and I would like to ask the question, what were your criminal charges in February 22nd this year?
Okay,
I would actually like to answer that question.
No, let's.
Yeah, I'm going to be cut off. But anyway, it's a good question. Please look it up at www.courts.gov.
Okay, so.
This is not the first of partisan-based political attacks upon myself. And so,
But we'll close it at that, and we have cookies left. Couple of things as wrap up. Thank you for the North Mason Chamber of Commerce and putting on this event. Diedrich Allen and Mason Web TV, powered by Hood Canal Communications. And all you folks that showed up tonight to participate in the event, and particularly those running for office. This is tough work. Sometimes it's harder than actually doing the job. So you folks that have stepped forward and have expressed an interest in doing the job, thank you very much for your interest and also your hard work during this campaign. So appreciation for them as well. And Dana, I don't know if you wanted to get a picture of all these guys together.
thank you, Dana.
So if you guys can stick around, we'll get a group shot of you guys. Oh yeah, right. I love that.
Yeah, I think she got it. Did you get your photos that she needed?